Thank you so much for coming. My name is Katie Richardson. I'm the multilingual education administrator for the district. I'm really happy to have you all here to share your experiences and to have Dr. Wilma Ortiz here to facilitate the conversation. These are all former students from when she was here at the middle school as an English teacher. So I'll let her lead the panel, but we're really excited to have this conversation and to be able to bring all of your experiences back to our students and families today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you everyone for inviting us. It's always an honor to be back to school. This is my school, my home for 25 years. So I feel that I'm coming back home. And it's an honor to introduce very briefly our panelists tonight. They very graciously accepted the invitation to share their experiences about being bilingual. And because I'm not young enough, I had to write things. So with your permission, I'm going to read a little bit of this. So as we begin with each of the panelists, I will say a little bit about them. So first, we're going to introduce Pei-Wen. We name her Lucy, and she will tell you a little bit about why she changed her name for Lucy, but it's Pei-Wen. And she was born in Taiwan. She came to the United States when she was 12 years old. Her dad brought the entire family here, and they first went to Michigan, and then a year later they came to Amherst, where her uncle was already living in here. She attended the middle school way back many years ago when the middle school was junior high school, and it was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then the high school was 10, 11, and 12. Eventually, when she graduated from 9th grade, by the time she went to the high school, the district changed, and the junior high school turned into a middle school. And then the high school was 9, 10, 11, and 12, and the middle school was only 7 and 8. So this is a little bit about her background. And she graduated, she doesn't want me to tell the year, but I think it's important, in 2000. 24 years ago. But she looks like a kiddo, right? So this is Pei-Wen.
Am I supposed to start? Hello? Okay. My name is Pei. My full legal name is Pei-Wen Chen, aka Lucy. I came from Taiwan, speak Chinese Mandarin. My dad was here in the United States when I was 2, and he stayed in the United States until I was 12 years old. So for 10 years, I did not see my dad. When I was 12, he came back to Taiwan and decided to immigrate, all of us, me and my 4 siblings and my mother, which I was very resist to, because I already have friends and I was ready for the middle school back in Taiwan. So I did not want to come, but I didn't have a choice because I was just a kiddo. And we first came to Michigan, and I did not want to learn English, but the school was very nice. Everyone decided to learn Chinese and speaks Chinese to me, greet me in Chinese, and my mom decided that's not going to do. So I need to learn English, and we decided to move to Amherst where my uncle resided. And that's why I met my teacher, Ms. Sarti. She had the magic and helped me open up my heart and decide to learn English that I did not want to. I was very shy, and she was all over me, jumping up and down, just like my friend, best friend, mother, and teacher all in one row. And I learned a lot from her, and she's my forever teacher. But my name got changed to Lucy because the teacher in Michigan cannot pronounce my Chinese name, Pei-Wen. They kept on saying penguin, which I later know what that means. So they felt bad. They said, how about we call you Lucy? And back in my country, whatever teachers say, we just have to say yes. I did not know I can say, no, I would like you keep my name in Chinese. I just said, yes, okay, that's my name. So I used the name Lucy, moved to here in Amherst, and finished the middle school here, high school here, when I was applying for college, I used the name Lucy, and I get denied it all over because that's not my legal name, and it's not connected with my social security number, and I got panicked. And I didn't know why I got denied, because they said there's no record from. I was not in school, and so Miss Ackerman was back then the ESL teacher, and she helped me figure things out. She did her magic. I was able to admit to the college with my real name, and that's how I started using my real Chinese name. So now every time I go on the street, if people call me Lucy, I know it's people from before high school. People call me Pei-Wen, I know it's after college. So that's how I differentiate, like which period I know people from. But yeah, the school system here in Taiwan was very different, and I struggled quite a long time with school because we were not, back in Taiwan, we are not as freely to decide, to choose what we like to learn or to express ourselves. We just have to listen to the teacher the whole lecture until the class ends, and if we have a question, we can ask then. Unlike the teacher here, they will say things and they say, anybody had a question? You raise your hand, or if you need to go to the bathroom, you could just interrupt by raise your hand. But in my country, I have to wait till the class is over. And everything's just very different, and I was not used to, and I did not understand what I have, the right that I have, what I'm allowed to do here. And I just keep carrying what my cultures are back here and thought I had to keep it that way. Took me many, many years to learn later on from Ms. Ortiz, like, you have to be yourself, you need to speak out, you need to be jumping here and there, join this, join that. She really, she's
me.
she helped me a lot through my first part of my life in the United States, and what? I think I covered everything. Did I?
No.
So how about the benefits of being multilingual? How that
The-
help you and
The benefit of being multilingual. I often help, now that I speak English much more fluent, and I see people with Chinese that they need help with the language, I feel good helping them doing translate. When I looking for job interview, the instant I add that I speak more than one language, and they test me a little here, there, confirm. I have a much higher chance of getting jobs. And I was able to help people all over the place. And now that I'm a mother of 3 kids, I try to get more involved in schools activities. Even though my kids are only 6-year-old, the oldest. I have 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 3-year-old. I try to keep them, to teach them the culture of my home. It's very hard to retain because they have absolutely no experience or environment to experience where I come from, all the traditional holiday and the things that we do, the language that we spoke, and by joining them to a different school activity, I can help suggest to the school of different activity that we can bring to school for the kids to experience, not just things in English in America, but things from Asia culture, and we can also learn from different culture from different country, from other parents that we can learn from as a diverse diversity. I'm so nervous.
Thank you. Our next panelist is Valdimira Fernandes. Valdimira was born in Cape Verde, and she came to the United States when she was 11 years old with her sister, because her mother was already here and she was living back home with her grandma and her aunts. She was very excited a little different from Lucy's experience. She was very excited to actually come here because her mom was already here. And so she came to the middle school and graduated from the high school in 2015. And I'm gonna add a little something. So she was my student here, but then when she graduated from high school, she went to study a college degree in my university, at Westfield State University. So my pleasure was not only to have her in a middle school, but then she was in Westfield State University studying social work. So I had her she was my student. I always said I'm keeping an eye on you for the next 4 years until she graduated. So this is how we continue that relationship.
Hi guys. I tend to get a little nervous if my voice shakes a little or if my accent starts to come out a little heavy. That's just because I'm nervous, but I'll try to be cool. But like she said, my name is Valdimira Fernandes. I'm Cape Verdean. I speak 4 languages. I speak Creole, Portuguese, English, and Spanish. I live in Amherst. Right now I used to live in Amherst. Now I moved to East Hampton. So I live in East Hampton with my boyfriend. It's been about 2 years, so it's been okay. It's an experience. What do? I work in Springfield. I work as a behavior monitor. So I work with kids that have like disability, like problems behavior. So that's where I'm working at right now. A little story about me, about coming to the United States. So when I came to the United States, it was a little different from her story because I was excited. I was 11. I was away from my mom for more than 10 years, as well as my dad. So I was back home with my grandparents, my aunt, and my mom has always, she was constantly telling us, oh, I'm gonna bring you guys to the United States. So I always had that in my mind that I was coming to the United States. So I would go to school. I didn't care about it. I don't care about what the friends I made. I just wanted to get out. When you're from a country, if you guys are not familiar with Cape Verde, it's a country on the west coast of Africa. And it's a country that everybody wants to get out of. It's not that it's bad. In all our country, we want to get out because we want to find a better life, better education. We want to give our best to our family, right? Our future family. So my mom always wanted to provide that. And as a daughter, I also wanted to provide that to my kids or to her as well when she grows up, because that's what all our dreams are, to provide, to do what our parents did to us. So my dream was always to get out. Everybody around me, dream was always to get out as well, to again look for that better life. So I was excited. My grandparents were my best friend. We're like a parent, like a second family, like not gonna second family, second parents. My dad didn't grow up with me like that. He was always away, but coming to the United States was gonna give me the opportunity to live that life with him, to experience and to have a closer relationship that I never had. So, my grandpa, we had the best relationship. But in the back of my mind, I was always like, I'm leaving you. I'm going to see my mom. So he has passed away 3 years ago. But it was the best friend that I never had, and a father that was never close. So growing up with them, I had the best childhood. I had the best time, but the wanting to come to be with my mom, the wanting to come to the United States, they always say the paradise country, right? So to live that experience, I wanted to see that for myself. Like I wanted to hear what people say. So I was excited to come. When I came, it wasn't I did not have a lot of culture shock to say, because even though there was language barrier, I was always that kind of girl that I'm a very outspoken. It doesn't matter what language it is, and I did have some hard time. I'm not gonna lie, because when you're very outspoken and you don't know the language, of course it's gonna be difficult because you can say what you want to say. So I did have some difficult time for sure. But when I first came, we lived in Hadley. I had a hard time over there because me and my sister experienced some racial issues over there, and they would put us in a dark room and with an open computer and expect us to learn English on a computer. Just two of us, and me and her looking at each other like, what we doing? I'm like, let's just do what we gotta do. So after that, they kicked us out of that school. So that's how we came to middle school, and that's how I met Mrs. Ortiz. Over here, I had the best experience. Even though there's a language barrier, I used to shut down a lot. That was my go-to. Like if I didn't understand anything, I would shut down. I shut down many times in that library space right there, many times, because when I didn't know when I wasn't understanding anything, I would just shut down. And then I learned Spanish here too, because why? I speak Portuguese. Portuguese is very similar to Spanish. I would go on the hallway talking to the kids, and then everybody would speak with me in Spanish, the one that spoke Spanish, and then I had to respond back in Portuguese. But then when we responded back in Portuguese, nobody was understanding. That's when the click started. I was like, nope, we gotta learn a different language. I gotta learn Spanish too. So that's how I started to, just started speaking it. I wanted to speak with an accent. I wanted to, for them, whenever I say something, I want to be understood. So that's how the Spanish came about. And also our class was very small. There was 4 kids in there. It was me, one other kid that was Cape Verde like me, and 2 other boys that were Spanish speakers. So they were constantly Spanish talk going on. I was like, I gotta get on it. So I got on that, and Spanish it's a language that I adore. I love speaking it. The benefit of speaking another language is that you get to connect people on a deeper level. It's amazing when I go to work and I'm translating with people that speak Spanish. It doesn't matter what language it is. Any language that they speak, and you're able to connect with them, and they're able to open up, and it's just that you get the different treatment. And it's not just about the treatment, but being able to actually hear what they're going through, what they need, and being able to help them, and being able to connect with them on the deeper level. So I love speaking it. So I love speaking a different language. I love learning English. High school was a struggle as well, because that girl had some attitude problem. When I started speaking in English, I was like, yep, I'm gonna speak it out. Because if I didn't speak my mind, or didn't speak how it was, there was a lot of like, let's say when you don't know the English, people try to walk all over you. I'm pretty sure some of you guys might know what that meant, what it means. So, for example, when I was going to college, the teacher told me that I was not able to go to a 4-year college because English is not my first language. And so I was like, bet. Just because you told me that I'm not going to go to that school, I'm going. So I did, and I graduated. I wish I could just rub it all on her face, but unfortunately, but I did it. I went to Westfield State University. It was great. Language was also a barrier. Unfortunately, language barrier is going to be something that we're constantly going to deal with, unfortunately. But we're in a country that everybody speaks the second language. If it's not you, it's your family. It's not your family. It's somebody deep in the root. Somebody speaks it. So I value speaking foreign language. I love it. It helps connect with people. You have a better opportunity of many different jobs. You get paid a little better, guys. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thank you. Our last panelist, Miguelito Cruz, but his name is Miguel, and I call it Miguelito because that's how I met him. I actually met him when he was still in his mother's belly. So that's how far back I know Miguel. And Miguel was born here, different from the other two panelists. He was born in Northampton, and he has lived his entire life in Amherst with his family. He came to the middle school, and he graduated from the high school in 2020. And he can tell you a little more about his story.
All right, is this on?
No.
No, it is.
Now it is.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Miguel Cruz. My family's from El Salvador. Can you hear me? Okay. And I speak Spanish. I've lived in Amherst my whole life, born and raised. And right now I'm working as a paraprofessional at Crocker Farm Preschool. So as Ms. Ortiz said, my story is much different than the other two. I was born here, and my first language was Spanish, but growing up, going through the Amherst Pelham School District, I started to lose it a little bit, and when I got to middle school, actually, I started realizing, I gotta get myself together and start trying to teach myself it again, and I didn't want to lose it because I knew how important it is, especially once you enter the workforce, you get paid more for it. So I started putting more effort into learning. I actually took French in middle school. I didn't take Spanish, but I started practicing my Spanish, started taking Spanish classes at the high school. And it's something I've always thought about because I grew up trying to make my immigrant mother proud, and I always had to translate things for her. So naturally, that's how I learned. I learned a lot of terms, like medical terms that not a lot of other peers my age knew, especially because my father passed in 2012. He had cancer. So something I had to deal with, and a 10-year-old speaking to doctors is a different level of understanding. But yeah, so being bilingual, the way that it contributes to my life nowadays is I have a lot of Spanish-speaking students. I work at a preschool, and I work in a special needs room, so communication with parents is so important, and I'm glad that I can provide that help to those parents.
So, before we start expanding with questions, I would like to invite the audience. If you have any question for any of the panelists, any comments, think about a dialogue, right? This is the first part to get to know the panelists, but now if you want to ask any other questions you're curious about, any comments, let's just bring the microphone to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. I am curious as to how you each feel about your different languages. If you feel like you have kind of a different personality in the different languages, if they allow you to express different things, just what's your emotional feeling about them?
You can keep that. We'll use this one.
Okay.
Okay. I recently heard something, I forget where I heard it, but someone said about how when you are speaking a different language, you adopt that kind of confidence that certain language has. And I think for me personally, speaking in Spanish, I'm a little bit more quiet in English and like reserved, but when I'm speaking to my family in Spanish or friends that I make, I feel more confident, more loud. I can be pretty loud. So yeah.
For me, to me, all four is the same energy. Everywhere I go, I tend to think that when I'm speaking in English, I think I'm more, I can't say professional because I tend to be me. there's not a lot of profession, but I'm just me. But yes, being professional at the same time. But when I'm speaking Creole, I'm more ghetto. I'll say that. I'm more frilly, and when I went to college, when I was speaking in English, it was a lot more. I don't know. I see more mothering in college. I was a girl that did sports. I'm not a drinker or a smoker, none of that. So I was always a mother. So the mother always comes out in English. So I'll say that. But all the language to me is the same. Yeah.
Did I just turn this off? As for me, I'm much older than them. So when I speak my home language Chinese, I felt more confident. I don't know why, even though I live in the United States longer than when I was in Taiwan. But when I speak Chinese, I'm more confident and I also feel like I'm restricted in that culture when I speak the language. But when I switch to English, I feel more, I have more freedom in choices of things. I don't know how to explain that exactly. My sibling call me gap baby. So I know part of before in Taiwan and part of America, but not quite well of each. I'm in the gap. It's just like, you're like, yeah. You're like in between, you know something, but you don't fully know something. And whenever I speak English at home with my sibling, they will laugh like, oh, you have accent. You pronounce it this way. And then I was like, ah. But when they do Chinese and I try to do the same thing, it doesn't feel the same. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Do you guys have any other questions? You have questions.
Yes, I have. Thank you. My name is Azima Majid. I am Hala's mother, and we are from Afghanistan. We come there at maybe among 6 months, and I'm very happy to hear, and I'm glad to meet you. And I have a question about the mother language. Some people when come to another country, they said we don't go to my country again, and I don't need to use my mother language. Now I must to learn, for example, English or Spanish or some which language is common in this country. Is it good or bad for you? Because my special goal is linguistics, and I know about language. I want to know your idea about your mother language. Do you like to use your mother language until the end of your life, or you don't want? You just talk because you are from different countries, you want to know your language. Is it important for you to use your mother language or not? Thank you.
That's a great question, because so you mean like, because a lot of kids nowadays, they speak the English instead of their mother language, right? I'm against that. Why? Because I think that our kids should learn our mother language, like you said, the language that you grew up with. Even though they don't have the experience that you grew up with or that I grew up with, but at the same time, I want them to speak with my grandparents. So let's say if they go back to our country, how are they gonna communicate with other kids? They're gonna be like, hey, hi. That's all they can say, right? And I'm around a lot of those kids that they don't speak Creole, they don't speak any other language, all they speak is English. But at the end of the day, when you go back to our country, what are you gonna speak? Because the kids back there don't speak your language. So I always say, when I become a mother, my kids are learning Creole. Because they gotta speak with my mom, they gotta speak with my grandma, they gotta speak with whoever. Because even though I came young, I do not want to go back to my country right now, but one day, if we go back, I want them to be able to speak with other people and to actually see and to actually understand them. And also as another language to add to the category, but like, yeah, I can speak another language. So yeah, I would always teach. I want them to learn for sure.
Thank you.
And I'm proud that I can speak another language for sure.
I definitely want to keep my mother language. It's very important to for me to pass down my culture, the language, and I want them to know where their roots or mother's roots come from. And they will not, by growing up here, they don't know as deep as what the culture is like. And I feel it's my job to let them know as much as I can provide. And Chinese language is one of the biggest language, and it's definitely only do benefit for them, on top of English that they know.
To add on to what they've already said, I definitely think it's important to keep your mother language. I think there is a certain mindset of people who immigrate here that think that they have to change everything about themselves to fit into this culture, into this society, which we're the country that is the mixing pot of every culture. So I think it's important to keep your mother language, and you never know when you can help someone. Like if you know a second language and you see someone that needs help, you can easily do that for them. So.
Thank you for that question, because this is one of the questions that we have as follow-up that could go in many different directions. I think I would like to ask the panelists a question about the school district. So my question is, in what way do you think the school district supported or not to maintain the mother language? And if they did support you to maintain and encourage you to maintain the mother language, how did the district do it, or how did the school do it? And if they did not, give us ideas. How can we do that with our multi-language parents and students?
So you're asking about us personally?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how did the school support it or not?
Yeah. So for me personally, I think it was specific teachers. Miss Zelaya, who used to work here, Blanca Zelaya, she was a math teacher of mine here at the middle school, and she would always encourage me to speak Spanish. She would speak to me in Spanish during the school hours, and that it was really impactful for me because I felt seen and I felt represented. And in high school, I was a part of POCU, People of Color United. So it was just not Spanish speaker. It was not only Spanish speakers. It was a lot of different cultures, and that also made me feel seen. And I was even nominated to be a part of MSAN, which is Minority Student Achievement Network, which every year they nominate about 5 or 6 students, and they send them to a conference to create a plan to help minority students feel more included in their school. So I went in 2017, I believe, and it was great. I went to Cleveland and I met a ton of people from across the nation, and I remember that conference being such a life-changing moment for me, and I still talk to some people that I met from that conference. So.
Pass on, don't do it after. I'm still thinking.
When I was in the school district in high school here, I actually joined 2 clubs. One is called International Club, and the other one is called Chinese Club, where both clubs constantly doing activity of the International Club, which has a lot of people from different countries. Whenever there's a holiday or a special festival, things coming up, the student and the teacher will come up with things to celebrate all together, and for us to learn more of the culture of what we're interested in. And the Chinese Club too, the teacher will do all the activity of all our holiday of someone which I forgot and some I didn't know of that helped me keep and continue with my culture, not to forget. So I think by having the club from the school, it helps support to maintain my roots and get to know other people's roots.
Mine was a little bit harder to maintain. Why? Because I don't think anybody, no, yeah, there were Cape Verdean here, but for me there was a lot of Cape Verdeans around, so I could not lose it anyway because I was speaking Cape Verdean all around me. But one of the things that I think that was really helpful, that also helped us share, was doing the presentations about our own countries, and I don't know, the diversity, and it just like provokes you to speak more about your country. So you're constantly being reminded. So, and you're constantly brought back home and brought back here. So there's no way that I was losing it anyway. So that helped, like you said. I think clubs helps a lot. It really does, because then you share, there's other kids that might not be from it, but they can join just to learn a little bit more about it, because their family member might be from it, their parents or their dad or whatever. So that, I think that's a wonderful way to spread it also, and to help other kids as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think I got some more questions.
Oh, we have more questions.
Somebody does.
Oh.
You and
I have a question.
Yeah.
See?
I actually have a question for you, Katie, or maybe you, Wilma, because I'm aware I entered the district in 2019, and I know that there's a strong emphasis on helping people cultivate their home language now, but it doesn't sound like when you were here that there was this emphasis. And so I'm curious to know when that kind of came about, the biliteracy program and all of that.
So I think most of that, I mean, we've always had a strong teaching team in the ELL department that has really supported our students in knowing that their home language and their culture matters, and maintaining those. However, after the tide changed a little bit with the state laws in 2017, where bilingual education was brought back into basically to be legal. So there was a history, and I think Wilma could speak to this more. There was a history of bilingual programs in the district which were closed when there was a change in the law in 2002, right? So I think there was a gap in that emphasis, and then after the Look Act, which was 2017, there was a little bit more emphasis on bilingual programs, which led us to have the Spanish bilingual program. And around that time, the state started to offer the seal of biliteracy officially, so that's something that our students that are graduating can earn on their diploma, so that's a really valuable credential that they can have. So that helped us to sort of think, how are we going to support our students to obtain that recognition, and that led us to build some more programming to support students in their home languages. So I think that's the more recent piece. The other thing I'll mention, and I'm curious about any of your experiences with, is that we often have interpreters working with our students that are newcomers as they're transitioning to learn English and be able to access content in English. And so I'm curious if you experience that, and sort of what you remember about that aspect of school. But maybe we can ask that, and then Wilma, you could fill in a little bit of that history piece too.
So Katie talked about between 2000 and 2017 a big gap in terms of the enthusiasm or even the opportunity for bilingual program. But before 2000, Amherst Public School had the best bilingual programs in the state for Western Mass. We had 4 bilingual programs, K through 12. We had in elementary, we had bilingual Korean, we had a bilingual Chinese, we had the bilingual Spanish, we had the bilingual Khmer. And then the student continued studying these languages, home languages, mother tongue languages, and some students could join those classes. But then in 2002, there's the law that was passed to eliminate all bilingual programs, and that was passed in Massachusetts, Arizona, and California. So that's when all of the bilingual programs were eliminated altogether with even the resources we had. So that's the gap that Katie is talking about. That's why you're saying why I notice this is like resurrecting all this understanding and the educational field that has been proven that students that are multilingual students are more academically achieve better in standardized testing. Their brains developmentally are operating in different levels as well. So the field has been recognized again for the value and the power of fostering multilingualism. So that's at the politics of education.
I'm sorry though, what was the rationale for eliminating the
So it
programs?
began in 1997 in California with the ARPS initiative, which actually was from Silicon Valley, and he was himself an immigrant who began to create a propaganda against bilingual programs, saying that the students were not graduating, they were not performing well in standardized testing, they were not learning English. So there was this huge narrative of the failure of bilingual programs, and they began to provide these statistics and numbers to prove that the failure of bilingual programs. So it went into the ballot, so it became very political. And the students here in the public school all graduated from the bilingual program successfully by the time they reached high school. So we were having a high graduation rate, and the bilingual, multilingual students also had high scores in all standardized testing. So the community actually got together and organized ourselves and presented to the school committee, we presented to the town, proving how these programs needed to be preserved. And we were trying to fight the law and have perhaps an exemption to the district because we were able to prove the successful of this program. So it was a battle, and we lost, of course, but now we're back again. So this is what we need to focus, I think, our energy.
Thank you.
So there's a question about interpreter support and
yes.
the role that played.
I remember when the first 2 years I came here, I speak zero English, and outside learning the ESL program, I was in the mainstream class which I had I understand nothing in the class, except math where the number works. So I had an interpreter in science class where the tutor came and she's supposed to translate for me, and the teacher talking and she translating, and then I didn't think it worked out too well because I end up relying on her. I stopped listening to the teacher and picking up what I need to learn, and I just wait for her translation. At the end, it become like, it went from she translating and she kind of teach me to she's just telling me the answer of all the homework and tests and all that, and that didn't really work out. And I think my teacher in ESL kind of realized that I'm not really improving. Somehow my tutor was gone, I don't know what happened, and that's when I was forced to learn more focus, and actually take notes and stay after school with teacher, picking up the language. So that was my tutoring experience.
I had a tutor for every single class. I thought it was great. I loved it. The only two classes I didn't have tutor was the ESL with Mrs. Ortiz and this was another class with Ms. Reyes. That was the only
Physical education.
in physical education. But other than that, I thought tutor was very helpful. I had an English spoken tutor. I thought it was great too. Even though when you look back, it seems like they're just giving you the answers, but at the same time, like it pushes you, and it also they're translating what the teachers is doing and what the teacher's being said. It's a hard job. You're doing two things all at once. So I benefit a lot from it. I don't have no complaints about it. I think Amherst Regional High School had the best, I'm gonna say, like, I learned English very fast. Like when I went to high school, I was already speaking English. I was yelling at the teacher also. That means I was speaking. So I was also a person that was very eager to learn. I was not taking no BS from no one. So like I wanted to learn. I wanted to be able to understand, and I didn't want to be made fun of. So that could also be one of the reasons why I learned so fast, and one of the reasons why I thought the tutor was great. So I think it's very beneficial for our kids to have a tutor in classes, even though sometimes it might seem a little hard, but it helps a lot. Because you might not be getting everything, but you're getting something out of it. So yeah.
I didn't
Could I share something?
I wanted to add, when you said what motivated the law, I have to say that there was a huge English-only movement of assimilation, and that's what really prompted, because they used a propaganda of English for the children, and which is something that we all wanted. That was, you can see, this is what I wanted for my multilingual student to learn English, but it was not at the cost of eliminating the bilingual program. So it's this appropriating language in a way that created a sense of inequalities, that the bilingual students were not getting a good education because they were in bilingual program, but it was all this English only agenda that I think penetrated the schools.
That reminds me that a few years ago there was a similar panel was offered here by Principal Sharon, and I was really interested to hear how many people, their parents didn't encourage them to learn, to keep up their mother tongue, that kind of thing. But I just wanted to contribute just a personal anecdote from my time when I came into the school system. I had two boys, and I was coming from living in Brazil.
Oh, you Portuguese?
No. But I came in as a classroom interpreter and had some girls from Cape Verde whom I was with, and I was so intrigued because the language has Portuguese in it, and I couldn't understand, and they would, of course, be talking, so I couldn't understand, and that made me decide to learn it. So I started taking some online courses, and I didn't get very far, but just an example of how things can go two ways. So that was, I loved the sound of the language, and thank you. Forgot my job.
No, that's okay. We support each other.
That's all.
So you speak Cape Verdean? Was it hard to learn?
I can't say I speak Cape Verdean. I can say some things.
Okay. Because I met an American woman that also spoke Cape Verdean. I was like, it's a good thing I didn't get to say anything bad. But she was, when I heard it, because when I hear people, American that speak another language, I'm always like, I'm so intrigued. I don't know why, because I think it's
a surprise.
yeah, I think it's beautiful. Yeah, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't. How did you learn a different language? How do you learn a different language?" And I'm like, I mean, if you really want to learn it, you can.
Mhm.
It's just how motivated you are.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's not impossible. Any other questions? You with the glasses, do you have any questions?
This was my student, exactly like this in the classroom.
Yeah,
Deal with that
you,
person. Oh,
you
yeah.
told her too much.
See?
Now you look the same, no?
So I guess I'm thinking about, as a school community, a little bit building on your question. You know, I heard some particular things that teachers or staff did support you. Can you think of anything that you remember that's something that should be changed, right? Something that was not supportive of you in your journey? That, you know, it could be another thing that was supportive, but for example, I heard teachers that encouraged you to use your home language or helped you feel seen in your culture, your identity, your language, right? So just thinking about anything else, any other recommendations that you would share as you think back on your time in the school system.
Recommendations, I'll talk. I got someone talking today. But I think one of the things that really helped, Mrs. Ortiz had a room that it was like just a welcoming for everybody. It doesn't matter who you were. Her and Miss Sayer, they had a cabinet. Everybody would come to the room and like, Mrs. Ortiz, I want some cracker. So even if you didn't speak English, you were welcome there. Or even if you spoke English, you were welcome. So that room, like anytime that I was leaving another room and going into that room, I was always excited. Me and her daughter would be running down the street, the hallway because we wanted to go to that room. So a room where you could feel heard and a room where I could speak whatever language, like if it could come out good or not good, that I was able to be myself. So there was two rooms here that I was able to feel myself. It was her room and it was Miss Reyes' room. And to this day, I was like, I ask her about it all the time. I'm like, where's Miss Reyes? Because I felt good in that room. I felt good in her room, and it was just a getaway. So to me, that was a room that I learned a lot, and it was a place where I feel heard, and it was very comforting for me. So I think that is just a place where they can get away and where they can feel comfortable. It's a good investment, let's say.
Mine's pretty similar.
So yep, you see,
Yep.
it worked. Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you all. Thank you, the panelists, for the generosity and honesty and good stuff. We're so proud of you. All proud of you.
Wasn't there an announcement?
Huh?
Yes.
Oh,
You
we
got
have
it.
one announcement. We have news to share. Spotlight.
Spotlight.
Tell us.
As of yesterday, I was accepted to University Without Walls at UMass. So I'll be attending UMass in the fall.
Continue. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.